On May 1st, 2021, Ernestina Escada, the owner and landlord of the property, came to 624 South Walters and reported that she smelled natural gas emanating from Mr. Reimer's apartment and also emanating from the crawl space underneath the apartment. She reported this sometime between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening. Later that evening, Robert Reimers testified that he was cooking a pork chop in the kitchen around 10:55 p.m. We know from call records from the fire department that the home exploded and caught fire, and the first report of that was sometime after 10:56 p.m. The San Antonio Police Department and fire departments both were dispatched to the scene and arrived on scene within minutes of the first report. CPS Energy responded to the explosion scene and arrived sometime after 11:37 p.m. Because the gas utility line did not have a curb valve, CPS Energy had to jackhammer down below the street to cut the gas off at the service tap. We know from CPS Energy's records this occurred sometime after 2:57 a.m. It's at this time that CPS Energy began its investigation, which consisted of bar hole testing using combustible gas indicators, cathodic protection testing, odorant testing, and the use of a smart sniffer car, which it drove through the neighborhood. On May the 3rd, CPS Energy concluded its investigation, determining that the fire and ensuing explosion were not caused by natural gas. But on May the 12th, the fire department, over a week later, concluded that in fact it was a natural gas explosion. And in fact, the arson team for the San Antonio Police Department also determined that it was a natural gas explosion. On May 26, 2021, this email shows that representatives of the gas company sent an email to the Railroad Commission confirming that they would provide the fire department's report upon receipt. However, on May the 27th, Mr. Fuentes with CPS Energy sends an incident report from the San Antonio Fire Department, but does not send the complete origin and cause report that shows that the fire department had concluded this was natural gas. On May 28, 2021, CPS Energy, through their representative, Mr. Fuentes, sends a letter to the Railroad Commission concluding that they did not believe that the gas facilities at this location were a contributing factor to the event. However, on June 21st, weeks later, the Railroad Commission wrote again to Mr. Fuentes at CPS Energy requesting the narrative text of the fire department's conclusion. What Mr. Sauceda from the Texas Railroad Commission didn't know is that that report showed that, in fact, the fire department and police department had concluded this was a natural gas explosion. On June 22nd, Mr. Fuentes from CPS Energy responds to Mr. Sauceda, indicating that they were working within their legal department to try to get the fire department's report. Testimony at the trial and later in the case proved that, in fact, CPS Energy had the report and did not give it to the Railroad Commission. Again, on July 27, 2021, Mr. Sauceda from the Texas Railroad Commission again requested copies of the fire department's report, which were never provided. Instead, Mr. Fuentes responds on July 28, indicating, "Let me check with my legal folks to see if they have them." On August the 9th, 2021, Mr. Fuentes emails the Railroad Commission investigator and tells him that, quote, the reports were being held by an Attorney General investigation. Mr. Fuentes emails the Railroad Commission investigator the same day and resends the letter previously sent, concluding that CPS Energy was not the cause of the event. And on November the 1st, 2021, the Railroad Commission closed its file on this explosion. The testimony in the case universally was that despite the fact that CPS Energy had the reports from both the fire department and police department that concluded this was a natural gas explosion, they never gave it to the Railroad Commission. Here's what CPS Energy didn't tell the Railroad Commission that preceded this explosion incident. Back on April the 30th, 2008, then Mr. Escada, Miss Escada's husband, who's since passed away, had reported to the gas company that he was smelling gas the past week. The gas company dispatched a trouble man who came out and found that the meter case was cracked and replaced the meter. What's interesting about this record is that it says new meter number 3. Gas company could never explain if this was the third time they had replaced the meter. Again, in 2015, CPS Energy's records show report of another gas leak at the meter. This time, the report was that gas was blowing out of the meter and a strong odor of gas was detected around the meter, as well as a hissing sound. Again, CPS Energy replaced the gas meter, but never attempted to ascertain why the meter was leaking a second time. Telemetry records from CPS Energy show as of November the 19th, 2021, that there was no gas flowing to the house through the meter. And from testimony, we know that as of November or December of 2020, there were no gas appliances at 624 South Walter Street. From January 21st, 2021 through April of 2021, CPS Energy gas bills show that there was no gas usage, but CPS Energy continued to charge a gas service charge for the meter. CPS records show that the original installation of this gas meter setup was sometime in December of 1960. From 1960 until the time of this explosion, there were no maintenance records of any kind other than records that showed that the gas meter was leaking.